like I said, y'all know I'm going to be a Cowboys for life. We're going to figure out a way for me to be a Cowboy for life. I think, Jay and Steven see it that way too. So I'm going to be real excited, at the end of this year. I hope the fans are going to be excited because I think it's going to be a great offseason. I do think we're going to attack free agency. I think it's going to be a great year.
Now, look, I already know. Half of y'all are already on your way into typing, man, the Cowboys ain't going to do nothing this offseason. And trust me, I'm right there with you. And I don't care what Micah Parsons says or how many fun nicknames he has for Jerry Jones. I don't know if y'all picked up on that, but my man's is calling Jerry Jones Jay. I don't know if I've ever heard any other player refer to him as Jay in such a loving way. So Micah and Jerry in the front office, they're close, man. Micah ain't going nowhere, and I'm hoping that Micah is spending so much time with Jerry Jones to the point where he's comfortable enough to call that man Jay. I'm hoping that he has some information that we don't know, and maybe Micah Parsons is being the actual leader that this Dallas Cowboys team needs. Maybe he's being this iteration of the Dallas Cowboys version of what Michael Irvin did back in the early 90s when he went around pretty much letting the coaches and anybody who would listen know, hey guys, this fella over here, he ain't the right type of dude we need on this team. So maybe Micah is doing that from a different perspective. Maybe he's letting Jerry know, hey man, we have the guys that we need. We need more help. We need you to actually go be aggressive in free agency. And Micah, he seemed to be teasing with some sort of confidence that the Cowboys may have had a change of heart as it pertains to how they plan to approach this upcoming free agency for the 2025 free agent period for the NFL. Let's get right into this. I'm not just going to talk your ears off. I'm actually going to dive into the numbers here. We're going to take a look at how much potential cap space the Cowboys could carve out. And then we're going to take a reasonable look at what they could potentially do in free agency based on previous trends. I'm not just about to get up here, show you the best available free agents and be like, hey, they should get this guy, this guy, this guy. They are not going to do that. Let's go by Cowboys trends, y'all. And be sure to subscribe for more Dallas Cowboys content just like this one. Let's play the game, Micah. Let's play the game. So the first thing we're going to need to look at is looking at how much available cap space we're likely going to have to play around with. Now, just looking at this and trying to look at the moves that they probably really would make. Now, this is just a path to get $100 million in cap space, but if we're being completely honest, they're probably not going to make some of these moves, and I'm going to explain to you why. So we're going to look at a new cap number that we're going to be working with the Cowboys. We're going to have to figure out how they're going to spend that money, and then we're going to take a look at our free agents, and then we're going to take a look at the free agents that they would likely target based off of positions of need and affordability and fit, just in general, right? But the Cowboys currently are sitting at about $23 million in cap space. There's just $23 million is sitting around right now that they can actually spend on a player if they wanted to. They're sitting on that as we currently speak. Going into next season, they are and probably should trigger the restructure that they can do with Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb after signing those big deals. This is par for course for any NFL team. You usually see this happen, guys. The Chiefs did it immediately with Patrick Mahomes, and all other teams that have signed big contracts with their quarterbacks, they're going to be doing this as well. You restructure that contract, you open up some more money in the immediate future to put that money off into some later years, probably whenever these guys are about to retire, whatever it may be. But that's usually during a period where you're rebuilding your team and you have a super affordable player at that position. So it's not really hurting you during those years. So you have to pay that player, and hopefully that money comes off the books as you're about to pay that player. That's in the ideal world, in the perfect world. That's how you would want your cap to be rotating, essentially. So Dak, even though he would have those 2, 3, 4 years of dead cap, essentially those 4 years of dead cap is the years that you would have an Arch Manning on your team, and he's on a rookie contract, so he's making like a couple $1 million, and then the Cowboys are having to pay Dak $1 million in dead cap, and essentially they're still paying a quarterback $50 or $60 million at that position when you add up both of those guys' cap, and you still have the same percentage of cap space being taken up by that position, okay? Remember, the way these teams negotiate is essentially they're looking at a percentage of cap that they're going to allot to any given position, all right? So they have that amount of money carved out to pay that position. Make no mistake about it. You just have to make sure you're doing your cap properly to where you're staying within those guidelines. But you could save $36 million with Dak, $20 million with CeeDee Lamb. Right there, you're going to be looking at $56 million in savings Add that to $23 million that we currently have, and then you're looking at about $79 million in current cap space going into next season. Remember, whatever number we come up with ultimately as we go through the show, because that's going to be important as it pertains to how we're going to be spending in free agency, according to Micah Parsons. Remember, this is all based off of Micah Parsons teasing stuff to us. So we're going to see if it's realistic or not. So we know where to put our hopes, and if we can really look at the front office and expect them to do anything, because it's easy to just be like, oh, they're not going to do anything. They never do anything. But hey, man, you never know. Embarrassment and a hurt ego can make people do some strange things. But either way, you can restructure Trevon Diggs for another $6 million. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know if the Cowboys looking to restructure him. They may let his contract play out as is, and they may end up parting ways with him just based off of health. It just depends on how he looks when he finally does come back towards the end of next season or at the beginning of 2026. It just depends on how he looks, to be completely honest. So we can't just act like it's a for sure thing that Diggs is going to be a Cowboy for life, because we've heard no one at all, not Jerry, not Steven, not anybody say anything of the sort. I don't think we've heard Trevon Diggs say that. So I don't know, y'all. I don't know about Trevon being restructured, so we're not going to count that $6 million. And I don't think they're going to cut Terrence Steele. I think that they're going to keep Terrence Steele. So I'm not going to count 14 or 9 million for the cap. So we're still sitting at 79 million. Now, I do think they're probably going to move on from one of our safeties, and that could be a position that we draft for. That could be a position that we get a veteran bridge gap free agent. But I do think that we do end up saving that $8 million by cutting one of the safeties or both of them. I'm not really sure how that one works. So let's just add $8 million to the 79 million. Now you're looking at about $87 million in cap space. You extend Micah Parsons, that's going to actually open up some cap space. So if you go from 87 million plus 15, so now you're looking at $102 million in cap space. That's without cutting Terrence Steele, and that's without restructuring Trevon Diggs. You're still looking at close to $100 million in cap space by doing three things that you absolutely should do. Extend Micah, restructure Dak and CD. You should absolutely do those things without a question. Even if we were to say they keep the safety, let's say they keep all the safeties, right? You're still looking at $94 million in cap space. So let's play with that number. Let's go ahead and underbid right here. We're not going to overbid for this show. Let's underbid and kind of stack the deck against ourselves to really see what the Cowboys can squeeze out. So let's say they keep the safeties, they don't cut anybody, so they don't get that $8 million. So now we're dealing with $94 million in cap space. Let's move on to the next part of this. The next thing that's important to note is, who are our own free agents? How are they going to have to spend that $94 million? There's a couple things here that's a little bit concerning. One of our guys that's going to be a free agent this season is going to get big money. Osa Odighizuwa. He is more than likely going to get himself a top of the market type of defensive tackle contract. So if you're looking at some of the top defensive tackles in the National Football League, we're looking at paying Osa Odighizuwa, because remember, he's probably going to be our most coveted free agent in this particular offseason. Micah Parsons isn't a free agent yet. He's going to be available to be a free agent, but they have to extend him this offseason for sure. But he's going to be looking at about $20 million per season. I don't think he's going to get paid like a Quinnen Williams or a Derek Brown or a Nnamdi Madubuike. I don't think he's going to get paid like any of those guys, and Christian Wilkins, because those guys are like kind of like star type of players. But I think he's going to be in the neighborhood. So we're looking at Osa, let's say 18 to 20 million. Let's say about closer to $18 million per season is what you're probably going to have to end up paying Osa Odighizuwa, just based off of productivity. He's been one of the most productive and impactful defensive tackles in the NFL for a couple of years now, for the last two seasons, 2024, 2023 for sure. Osa has really started to come on, and he is playing at top of his position. By top of his position, I mean like a top 10. Let's say $18 million per season is what you're going to be looking at paying Osa Odighizuwa. Let's take that off of the $94 million that we were working with just then, and that's going to bring us down to what, about $76 million. So you got $76 million in cap space left. Let's assume they're going to re-sign Rico Dowdle back. I think that they're going to end up giving Rico Dowdle a contract. You could pair Rico Dowdle with a rookie out of the draft, or maybe a couple rookies out of the draft, and make yourself like a 1-2 punch there. Rico Dowdle, as far as how much they would probably pay him to bring him back, because he is going to be an unrestricted free agent this offseason, I'm thinking you're probably going to be looking at something like $6 to $7 million per season. I think they're going to go much higher than that for Rico Dowdle. You're probably going to be looking at something similar to what Tony Pollard got for the Tennessee Titans. got 3 years for $21.75 million. I think that is a very, very reasonable range to put a Rico Dowdle in. Maybe just a tad bit less because he has established himself a tad bit less than a Tony Pollard. So maybe you're looking at, instead of a $21.75 million deal for 3 years, maybe you're looking at 3 years for $18 million. So you're giving them $6 million per season. I think that's kind of a reasonable range for a Rico Dowdle. He has come on towards the end of the season, but I don't think he has enough of an established track record to really demand like a top of the market type of running back deal. So now you're going from 76 million, now you're down to 70 million. You still have a lot of money to play with here, ladies and gentlemen, and you have a lot of free agents as well. As far as the free agents that you do have, you have Brandon Cooks. I think that they either bring him back at a discounted rate or they let him walk. But you have Brandon Cooks as a free agent. Zach Martin, I think you just let him walk. DeMarcus Lawrence, they may end up letting him walk. Trey Lance, I don't think they're going to bring Trey back. Eric Kendricks, I think he's going to be one of those guys that can kind of get like a J. Lou deal, get back on like a 1 or 2 year type of deal. So I do think they bring Eric Kendricks back for around the same amount of money he made this season. So you see him maybe for a 2 year, $6 million type of deal, 2 year, $7 million type of deal. Give him a little bit more incentive there. So you take another $3 million off of the 70 that we have. Now we're sitting at about 67 million. J. Lou, I think he's going to be in for a slight pay raise. I think that you're going to see him bump up to about $5 to $6 million per season, maybe even a little bit more, because J. Lou is one of the better slot corners in the entire National Football League. But let's say he gets up to about $6 to $8 million, and I don't think he gets that high. So let's say $6 million for J. Lou. He goes up from about 2.8 to 6 million annual average. So it brings us down to about $61 million left in cap space. You have to re-sign your backup quarterback. Either that or you're going to draft a guy. I personally believe they end up re-signing Cooper Rush. They bring him back for around the same amount of money they paying him now. He's a safe option. He knows the offense. As long as Mike McCarthy's here, there's no reason for Cooper Rush not to be here, because they've shown that they can stay afloat with Cooper Rush. Even though it's ugly, it's terrible to watch, but they have shown that they can in fact stay afloat with the Cooper Rush manning the ship, right? So we can't act like that's just out of the realm of possibility. Now, as far as anyone else, Linval Joseph, I think that they're probably going to let him go. Hang on, because there is going to be a replacement in place there. And then there's going to be a couple of guys that they end up just paying some money to. Chauncey Golston. I think they're going to have to pay Chauncey Golston more money than he's making this season. So another $5 to $6 million off. You're close to about $50 million. After you look at all these guys that are going to be free agent, Israel Mukuamu, Kavontae Turpin, he's gonna demand some money. He's a restricted free agent, but he's going to demand some money. If you want to keep Wanye Thomas, there's a lot of guys. Let's just say another $10 to $15 million is coming off just from signing depth guys right here. Your own depth guys. Remember, Cowboys are always going to prioritize signing their own guys first, right? So you're signing your own depth guys back. If you look at our history, most of our free agents acquisitions have been re-signing guys, okay? So it's not like they're going to be super busy outdoors, and we're accounting for that with this show. So let's take another 10 to 15 million off. Now we're working with about, let's say, 40 to 45 million dollars in cap space from the 100 million that we started with, or close to 100 million that we started with, after you re-sign all the guys back that you want to keep. A Brock Hoffman, a Israel Mukuamu, a Kavontae Turpin, a Wanye Thomas, a Marquise Bell probably is going to be someone they may want to keep around, even though he did get hurt. I believe he got hurt, so I don't know. He may be a casualty of attrition. I don't know there. But another 10 to 15 million dollars off, let's say 15, that brings us down to about $45 million in cap space. Now, with that, this is $45 million after they've made all their roster moves. This is $45 million after they've re-signed their own guys. Now you have a little bit of money to play with, and this is not taking into account that you are still going to have some money set aside, because Tyler Smith is going to be coming up. Tyler Smith is coming up, and Tyler Smith is going to get top of the league pay for his position. And that's going to be looking at something around $20 million per season. So go ahead and take another 20 off the top of that, because they're not going to want to touch the money. They're going to have to pay someone like a Tyler Smith. So now you have Tyler Smith locked up. You have Micah Parsons locked up. You have Chauncey Golston back. You have Osa locked up, because we allotted that money for Osa Odigizua. So you got your guys back, and now you're looking at roughly about $25 million of spending money for the actual offseason. So really, you're looking at about the same amount of spending money that you have right now. You have $23 million in cap space. You honestly are looking at about the same amount of cap space going into next season. What can you actually do with that to where you're making good on the promises of the Cowboys going to be more active in free agency? Then remember, you have to sign your rookies as well. You still have to sign some rookies, so you're going to take up a little bit more of that money as well, guys. So you're going to take out a little bit more out of that, and then you have some money left over to play with. Now, I think there are some guys that the Cowboys could potentially take a look at. One of the main people that I thought was very, very interesting, and if you look at his projected market value, is Khalil Mack. The most interesting thing, however, about Khalil Mack is his projected market value due to his age. Not the fact that he's, degrading a lot as far as play, but his age is going to bring his price down a little bit. His market value right now is only 2 years for $14.5 million. That's essentially about a $7.5 million annual salary, and that would be a move that would not only make the Cowboys better, because it would help the defense, for sure. You add Khalil Mack to a core of Micah Parsons, Sam Williams, you have Golston, you have Marshawn Nealon, you have Carl Lawson, you bring him back as a depth piece as well. You have a bona fide pass rushing effort right there, and that's without bringing back a DeMarcus Lawrence, right? So you're looking at those guys, you're replacing DeMarcus Lawrence with Khalil Mack essentially, and Khalil Mack, as of right now, is still playing at a pretty decently high level. He actually leads the Chargers with 35 pressure, so he's another one of those guys that's generating a lot of pressure. He's demonstrated some split alignment this season, lining up 55.4% of the time on the left side and 43.2% of the time on the right edge. So he's going to be another one of those guys that can move around a little bit within his Mike Zimmer defense. And again, Khalil Mack is still just playing at a decently high level right now. No, the sack numbers aren't super gaudy like they've been in the past, but he's absolutely still a force out there. But he is aging. He's getting up there in age. I don't think the Chargers are going to bring him back again. If they do, I would be surprised. I think the Chargers are probably going to go for more of a youth movement right there. But I think the Chargers, they're trending in a positive direction, but I think there's going to be time because he barely came back this season. There was talks that he wouldn't even be back this season. So it's possible that a Khalil Mack is available, and to me, the Khalil Mack move would be like a Stephon Gilmore type of move, an equivalent of a Stephon Gilmore type of move, and that would be the Cowboys saying that they got them a big name player in here, and he would be at an affordable price. So this right here to me is legitimately a Dallas Cowboys move. Through and through, this looks like something the Dallas Cowboys would do. He's a big name. He could potentially want to revive his career a little bit. He's been more vocal in the media recently as far as just giving the media more sound bites and stuff like that. And I think that Khalil Mack is going to want to go out with a bang, and what better way to do it than with the star on the side of your helmet. And I think that that's a perfect type of move for the Cowboys. To be honest, he'll be affordable, and that's taking up about half of what you have left to spend on available free agents. Now, who else would you get with the rest of that money? I think one of the main people or main positions you would want to address is you would want to get another veteran presence on that defensive line. Even if you were moved to a 3-4 next season, you would want a veteran presence on that defensive line, and what better player to bring in than a DJ Jones, the nose tackle for the Denver Broncos. Now, here's the thing. He's the nose tackle for the Denver Broncos, and he's been playing extremely well since week 10. His 26.9% run stop rate leads all players. So this is someone that would absolutely plug that hole and help you against the run game, okay? He's about the same size as like a Mozzie Smith, not a super big guy, but he would absolutely fit into what the Cowboys are trying to do. He's generated 30 run stops on 168 defensive snaps this season, leading to a 17.9% run stop rate, which is second highest in the NFL with a minimum of 100 snaps. And if you just look at it, this is a guy that's always been pretty proficient at helping to stop the run at that defensive tackle position. So this could be someone we see come to the Dallas Cowboys on a $7 to $8 million type of contract, because that is roughly about what you're looking at as far as his actual positional value goes. All right, so again, another guy, super interesting, and I think that this is another reasonable move that the Cowboys could possibly make. He isn't going to be making a whole lot of money. He's going to be a guy that's going on to his age 30 season. Right now, he's only making about $10 million. That was probably the best contract he's going to get as a pro. That was his second contract, which is usually the best contract for these guys. And his next deal is probably going to be like, I'm trying to stay in the league type of deal. And I think Dallas would be the perfect place for a run-stopping nose tackle to come, because he would add a veteran presence. But I think a DJ Jones, Khalil Mack free agent acquisition would be absolutely something up the Cowboys' alley. And then you also bring in a veteran cornerback off the free agent market, and boom, now you've made good on Micah Parsons' promise. You bring in a big name guy, you bring in a guy that's going to efficiently plug an important hole in your defense, and then you bring in another veteran corner to kind of add some depth to that position, especially understanding that Trevon Diggs is not going to be there. You don't want to have rookies starting in that position, especially when you're actually trying to make a run at it, like Micah is alluding to, right? So I think those would be 3 moves the Cowboys could make that would make Micah Parsons be being honest, and it would retain all the players that the Cowboys are likely to bring back and save a little bit of cash for the rookies as well. So could the Cowboys actually be players in free agency? We just proved it. We just went through it step by step. Yes, they actually could if they wanted to. And this is while retaining guys that they're probably going to want to retain. So we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully Micah and Jay have had some conversations that makes Micah so confident about this, and we'll just have to see what happens, y'all. But either way, we still same old Cowboys.
Calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, am I still the ball? Y'all usually check on me. Listen. I'm still them boys. Hey! Woo! Oh, shut up, my boy. Hey! I'm still them boys.